Yay. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the President's Posse Presents. And we have got a full house today. The entire posse is here to be with you to spread some holiday cheer, or at least talk about presents and holiday cheer. And we'll see if we're cheery or not. I guess that'll be your decision, what you think. Let's see. How are we going to start this off? I actually want to start this off with going to Jan, who is obviously in holiday cheer modus. You look
Hello.
very festive with your Christmas hat.
Yes,
How are you doing? What kind of cheer are you in today?
Yeah, good. I just finished my Christmas tree. It's been going up in stages. So finally put the finishing touches to it this evening. So yay, we got a tree.
Hey, it's a real tree. Or when you say stages, I think of the plastic ones where you put like section by section.
Yeah, the sections went up first, and then no, it's not real.
Okay.
Then
Does any of you guys have a real tree? Yeah, Danielle, you have a real tree. Is yours up?
It is, thanks to my husband.
Oh.
I rescued a little tree that was going across the farm and home parking lot when I worked there and asked if I could have it because it was obviously damaged in the storm. And they said, yeah. So I planted it outside my house, and that was several years ago. And the neighbor said, you need to really move that because the roots will get in your foundation. And, well, fine. We'll make it a Christmas tree. So it's only about 4 feet tall, and it's real crooked, and it seems perfect.
Perfect.
Oh, that sounds like it's got a lot of personality.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, Malcolm, do you do trees?
No. Well, I mean,
No tree.
big on that. So when I went home here recently, you know what I'm saying, I helped her put her tree up and do some decorating around the house. But
So you don't do a lot of decorating at your house, but you go and help.
yeah, I'll help my mother or whoever, you know what I'm saying, I'll go help them out or whatever the case is.
That's nice.
Yeah.
What about you, Bobby?
I'm making a ice ball tree. Cool little thing here. If you fill a regular water balloon with water, put a little food coloring in there, throw it outside in the snow. Overnight, it melts, and with that melting, you can then take the balloon off, and you have a rock solid bowling ball size. It looks like a Christmas ornament, really, because I don't shake up the or it could look like a giant marble because sometimes it's just like a thread of color through the middle. So I'm building that into a tree.
Doesn't that melt?
Yes, it does melt.
It's
around April.
Oh yeah, okay.
Wake up, Miriam.
It is an outside project.
Okay, I'm with you.
And I will have to deal with several puddles of food coloring in my front yard. Hopefully my grass will like it by the time it starts to grow back up again. We'll see. First year doing that.
Oh, that sounds really cool, though. It's nice to listen to people's ideas of how they decorate, or at least for if you're doing Christmas. It's actually Hanukkah at the same time as Christmas. Well, ish. It started yesterday, depending on your calendar and time zone. Yeah. So we lit the first candle yesterday, depending on your time zone. And that goes for 8 days. So it'll be, we kind of collide with Christmas, and that's pretty cool.
Nice.
So, but we don't decorate, or at least the ones when I was a kid. We were always told that we didn't decorate because we're not supposed to decorate, but it kind of gets confused with a Christian holiday anyway. So we have our candle lighting thing. That's what we do. And so, but I love Christmas. I love anything that's sort of cheery. I'm a Halloween crazy and Easter crazy. And I mean, I love things that bring cheer. So I'm quite happy to be involved in Christmas. And I love the lights and the decorations. And of course, I live a place where it's quite dark quite early. So anything that brightens the place up, I'm happy. And as you can tell, Jan put her Christmas tree on her head. I put mine on my.
I'm wearing mine.
Right. So I have a different Christmas sweater for pretty much every day, and I just think it's so much fun.
Oh wow!
And it just people comment and, oh, I love your sweater, and then they have this. There's a cheery reaction to it. It doesn't take much to awaken joy in people, and even people who don't celebrate Christmas can choose to react in that way. Okay, we got Fred trying to come back. He has some technical issues, guys. So we're going to try again and bring Fred back. Let's see. There he is. Can you hear us, Fred?
No.
Nope.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Loud and clear, brother.
Yeah, it's really delayed.
I could do sign language. Do you do Christmas trees and stuff like that, or are you a strictly Hanukkah kind of guy?
I do not do Christmas trees, and it looks like we're doing Hanukkah this year. So yes.
Okay. So you're eating your potato latkes and your.
No, I wouldn't say we went that far.
Oh.
How far did you go, Fred?
Just the candles.
I think we're going to exchange presents and say Happy Hanukkah to each other.
Oh, you guys do presents.
Well, that's the best part. Well,
okay, so we didn't have presents. It's Hanukkah, not Christmas, so we didn't have presents. So I was always at Christmas time. I was always the kid outside ice skating by herself while all my friends were at home unwrapping presents.
No.
Yeah, we didn't have anything like that. We just had we did have chocolate money. We used to play games for chocolate money, like in the gold, the gold paper around it. Yeah, they call it Hanukkah gelt, and we would light our candles. Oh no, we lost Bobby.
We're coming and going this evening.
That's the source of our holiday cheer. Is the internet is not working.
Yeah.
So well, here he comes again. Let's see what happens. Get back in there. There you are.
I've moved on my screen.
You have. I was just thinking, this is kind of like the Hollywood Squares or the Brady Bunch or something like that.
Right.
All right. Presents and holiday cheer. Let's get serious.
Do we have to?
Let's not.
Okay. But
I think one of my favorite things about this time of year is all the singing. Where I live anyway, there's loads of singing, and not just carol singing, but parties and a lot of social activity, and people are just more joyful and more lighthearted at this time of the year in general. I think I like that, and singing is something that brings me a lot of joy. So when there's more of it around, I tend to tune into it, and I think
go ahead and sing us a song then.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But no, I just think it evokes a lot of joy in me when I'm present to singing.
So and when you're not present, it's just really irritating, or
yeah,
because I've seen that people can get really irritated. But when I was a kid, I wanted to go door to door singing Christmas carols, but again, that wasn't allowed. So I never got to do anything but Christmas. So now I do tons of Christmas things because it's, I don't have parents to decide for me.
Yeah.
And I love singing to people, just like I love decorating for Halloween and being there for the kids and giving out chocolate and all of that stuff. But people do get irritated by the singing, some people at certain times. And I wonder about if I'm not in cheer in some way, if I'm not in joy in some way, if I'm stressed or if there's grief or something else, somebody singing Christmas carols, I would imagine it might be irritating instead of bringing joy. Does that resonate with anybody?
Yeah.
It all comes back to, because what happens during the Christmas time is all that is more or less nostalgia, things that you remember, right? From when you was a youth, from when you was from,
Yeah.
as you grew up, what was Christmas like back then? What was the great moments? Some people had good moments when Christmas came around, and some people didn't. Um, like when I grew up, Christmas was always that thing, right? But it was never only thing I mean, the presents were cool or whatever, but I got presents all year round. So I got gifts all year round. I got money all year round. So,
Wow.
Christmas was just, I valued what my parents did for me throughout the year. But, what I'm saying, Christmas to me, we we never had that meal, right? That was
Mm.
that Christmas meal. And that's the most joyous part of Christmas for me is the meal, right? You might have it, a little bit here and there throughout the year, but you never had everything right there, what I'm saying, like you would the Christmas meal. So that's the thing that was like, when I was deployed, that would be the thing that I missed the most was just the meal, what I'm saying, and the conversations and
Yeah.
the conversations around the meal and the laughter around the meal. That was a thing for me, right? So what I'm saying, but once again, Christmas can trick. That's why you have to be present in what's going on for Christmas, for the holidays, any holidays, because you might have a trigger and not really know that this is a Christmas trigger, right? Every year around Christmas, you start feeling a certain kind of way. Or when things don't go as you would want them to go for Christmas, right? You start feeling in a negative way, or you start thinking negatively. And that's those things that you have to be cautious of or aware of, because what I'm saying, if you when you get up that morning, you should be getting up that morning saying to yourself, if you say mantras and all that kind of stuff, is saying that I'm going to have a joyful day, right? And you have to keep going. You have to keep saying that throughout the day for Christmas or whatever, because things do happen, right? You got people coming over and people supposed to be there, they're not there, and it's just on and on. And it all depends on how you feel and how you allow yourself to feel about every situation, because it's supposed to be this joyous event and everybody's supposed to be happy, and everything's for the kids are supposed to be playing, the parents are supposed to be doing what they're doing, whatever, and then here comes something, and you think it just destroys the whole day, even though you've had a good day all day, but that one thing that happens at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock destroys the whole day for you, right? So you have to be aware of that, man. You have to be cautious, be present in how you're feeling about this day. And you also have to give gratitude, give thanks, right? To for anything and everything that you have at that moment. If you got people coming to visit you, you got to be grateful for that, right? Because some people don't have family that's going to come visit them, that's going to spend time with them, that's going to give them gifts, right? They don't have it. So, you have to be grateful for that. You have to be grateful for whatever meal you get. I know, for me, we had the big meal, but somebody right down the street from where I grew up at didn't have a big meal, right? You know what I'm saying? You would talk about it later. As children, you talk about it later, and they just say, well, we just had, we just had some ham and whatever, right? But I'm sitting here listing this all of these great things that we had, for dinner, right? Because that was the most exciting part to me. So you still got to just be cautious, be careful, and be mindful of where you're at and during this time of season, and be mindful of the people around you, right? The people that you say you love, right? Because they may not be in that cheerful spirit, and you have to share that cheer that you have with them, right? So maybe they can have a better Christmas next year. Maybe they can have something good to think about, something positive to think about the next Christmas.
Mhm.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Totally.
I'm going to just come in here for a second because like I get what you're talking about. I just want to bring in a different aspect, because when I was a kid, we didn't do Christmas, we did Hanukkah, but it's still a family gathering kind of cheery holiday thing. But I was required to be around family. I didn't have a choice whether I wanted to be around family or not. I had to be around family. And that's not always, and it wasn't always a pleasant thing. And that's one of the things that I think many people who as the holidays get closer, or when it gets to holiday time, that's the kind of thing they associate. They don't associate the family meal as being a good thing. That's like the drunk uncle or the person who, had his hands all over somebody or whatever. I mean, not necessarily, or they didn't get presents or whatever. It doesn't, the things that appear to be good about holidays aren't necessarily experienced as good for everyone. And I would have been very pleased if a certain family member, like relative, hadn't been there, kind of thing, because, as you know, this person who never looked at my face always looked at my chest, kind of thing, and the kind of things that person did, I wouldn't have missed that person not being there. So on the one hand, I'm with you on that. It's like appreciation for what you have. And on the other hand, that choice and that sort of feeling of not having a choice, of having to be around people that I didn't necessarily want to spend time with, where it wasn't pleasant. And you can laugh about it later, possibly, but it wasn't a pleasant experience. I just wanted to sort of balance that out a little bit. Anybody else want to bring in anything?
Let me jump on that real quick. I think the thing is, at the end of the day, right, when we're children, we don't have too much of a choice. We got to do what we're told, right? As we mature and we become older, we have to look at things differently, and we have to move beyond. Or that something will be something that's there to just continue to bug us, and even though that person might be gone and you ain't talked to that person in 20 years, you can't enjoy the moment, right? Because you're so stuck on, well, I remember when I was a kid, what I'm saying, my uncle got drunk and said something or did something or whatever, right? You're stuck in that moment, right? So that you're not allowing yourself to enjoy where you are right now, the things that you've accomplished, right? How did you get to this point, right? How did you get to where you're at right now? How was you able to buy gifts or to buy a tree or to buy the lights or to do all of those different things? See, you got to get beyond that when I was a child thing and what happened to me as a child. If that was the case, I'd be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right now. If I held on to everything that was done and said to me, right? Because, I grew up in Mississippi. There was a lot of racism in Mississippi. So if I held on to all of that garbage, I wouldn't be here now talking to you guys, right? I wouldn't be. So, so when it comes to the holidays, those are things that you have to surpass. You got to get past those things too, so that you can have a joyous moment. Even if that thought does come back to you, you got to deaden that thought, right? You got to deaden that thought so that you can, continue to have a good day or to, create those good moments. And that's another thing. You can't just expect good moments to happen. Sometimes you got to go create the good moment, right? You have to put yourself in position to have that good moment. And if you don't put yourself in position because of what happened to me when I was younger or what my fears and phobias at this time of the year, then you'll forever be stuck in those dark moments. And you don't need to be. There's no point in being. Learn the lessons from it and move on. That you just don't be that uncle or that aunt that don't nobody want around for Christmas.
Bobby?
Well, that's good advice. Don't be that uncle. One thing I'm hearing, Malcolm, as you go through that, and there's a lot of wisdom in what you say, and from the point of view of somebody who doesn't really like Christmas for whatever reason, and there's, Miriam gave a couple of reasons why people might not like the holiday season. Some people don't like it because of the consumerism. Some people don't like it because they see other people changing and going into a whole nother personality, a whole new mindset, and they don't feel themselves making the shift. But I think some people who don't particularly find the joy that some people do around this time of year, it's that you have to do this, you have to get up. It's the season of being joyful, so you have to be joyful. Right. Just get over it.
Yeah.
And for somebody who, for whatever reason, isn't able to either find the joy or, the consumerism has always kind of bothered me a little bit. I love the joyful part of it, but I never have liked the forcing of the gifts. I'm sure I liked it when I was a little kid, but still it felt, I don't know, it felt kind of a little off. There were other parts of it that I love, but for that person who has a little bit of difficulty finding joy, I suspect the fact that legions of people are saying, "Oh, but this is the happy time of year. Come on, get up, get over yourself, get in the mood, get in the spirit," and constantly being suggested to feel something when you're not feeling it.
Yeah.
Can be a bit of a challenge. I mean, if it's something much smaller than an entire season, just when you show up to work and you're in a bad mood, your day got off to a bad start, and if you're normally kind of an up person, but one day you show up, everybody's going to point out, God, what's the matter with you? You're my light. You're the one that always brings me up. You can't be down. You have to be up. And just like having to go screaming and clawing to hold on to it and being forced into that, I think that can get some people, which is another opportunity for presence. It's a good opportunity to examine our triggers, and the triggers seem to be things, as Malcolm said, for anybody who didn't have a happy Christmas, this can be a rough time of year. I think the opposite can also be true, that if you are constantly comparing your current experience versus this wild ideal, a narrative that you have playing on in your head, that can be tough too, because then, it can be 99 things out of 100 are perfect, but that one thing that's not perfect can, for some, ruin the other 99 and just cast a pall over the entire proceedings. So it was a lot. I think this is a very triggered time of year, triggered for many in a friggin' wonderful, beautiful, and awesome way. The first time that they hear the music starting to play. Here it was playing prior to Halloween. We had one station that started like blending in some Christmas music with their regular rotation. And I know for myself and most of the people I hang around with, that was kind of like, no, it's too soon. We gave up the fight on Thanksgiving and we can start celebrating earlier, but Halloween's too early.
Yeah, it gets a bit bizarre that's what I like, as you mentioned, the commercialism. I think that's kind of where it takes over. But what I'm going to go to Danielle, if it's okay. And you guys, I mean, please feel free to talk amongst yourselves. But because this, the idea of presence and holiday cheer, presence at all, in the face of triggers, or I mean, holidays that were good but aren't. I mean, it could have been Christmas or holidays were wonderful when you were a kid, but now you're older and they're not. Maybe you don't have enough money, or you've lost someone along the way, or something's happened. Or you're deployed or whatever. And so it could be the opposite. But when it comes to presence, at least for me, it becomes a question of what are the holidays? What's the season for me? And how do I want it to be? What do I need during this season? What does it look like? What do I react to in a positive way? What do I want to see? What do I want to feel? And I had the advantage of coming to Norway from Canada. And not only did I not have Christmas growing up, but I came to a completely different culture and could start pretty much from nothing and figure out, well, what do I like about Christmas? Do I want even any Christmas? Do I want to keep, Jewish holidays? What do I want to do with any of this? And do I feel cheery and what? All of that. So I was just thinking about your tree, Danielle, and how you described it as crooked, and you sort of, there it was, and so it was like, oh, well, we can take it inside and make it into a Christmas tree. And for me, that's kind of like a presence action, a way of being present to what is there, and then doing with the being. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do. And it was beautiful because my season has been very hectic. I have everyone that I have voluntarily taken responsibility for needed me
Yeah.
from like mid-November until now, right? So I'm it's just a very hectic season for me, and I'm spending a lot of energy to make sure that I take care of me
Mm.
amongst all these other responsibilities, and I don't let anybody else's journey become my journey. That my journey is mine, and I am supporting them in theirs, right? So this has been what I've been present to all throughout from mid-November until now. And I haven't had time for the commercialism. And I was very grateful that my husband cut down that tree that I had suggested earlier in the season and got it put up. And we were able to decorate it together one night because it's little bitty, right? Like we just did a few little lights and garlands and ornaments and we're done. And it's sitting on a tabletop so the grandson can't get into it and the dog can't get into it. And it's perfect for this season. But for me, I was thinking as you were talking that I have had all of those experiences. When I was very young, we had huge family gatherings at Christmas time. And after the big meal that Malcolm described, right, there were card tables set up in the basement of this house where we went to celebrate. And there were games. So they were playing cards and they were playing games, and the kids had their own little place to play, and the grown-ups were playing that we they game. That's what I called it. It's bridge, but that's how they keep score is we they. So I called it we they. and, and so I have those memories. And when my children were young, my dad would come and we had, a special week or so when they were off of school and grandpa was here and we got to do fun things and celebrate. But the biggest thing to me as an adult that I get to choose is what's important about the season. And what's important about this season for me, and I know that different Christians have different looks on this, but I chose a Christian church that is very, very inclusive. And we do an inclusive prayer every year. So when we talk about the Christmas season, we talk about the birthing of the Christ consciousness within us.
Mm.
So we celebrate of that birthing of the Christ consciousness within all beings. And that's what's become really important to me, is that is there. That's the meaning of the season for me, is that I can see it in me, I can feel it in me, I can see it in others, I can see it in all sentient beings, all the trees, the rocks, the snow, the everything, right? But more through that childlike wonder. And that's what I feel like sort of culturally I can tap into through the singing and the playing and the kids being off of school, and all of those things can feed that for me. So I enjoy that. But yeah, I've lost people and I've had difficult times. I've had, what did I call it? Bleak Christmases,
Yeah.
So the cultural expectations can be really difficult sometimes, but they can also be buoyant. They can help me to stay present to what I want to experience in this season,
Mm-hmm.
in addition to whatever I have to experience in this season.
Yeah. Yeah, that is beautiful. That's really beautiful. Bobby, before I go to you, I'm going to go to Jan because Jan's been very quiet. No, I'm
No,
just, you don't have to say anything. I just was
no,
curious.
I'm taking it all in. I mean,
Yes,
it's
I know.
all, to me, I used to get really overwhelmed at Christmas. Not so much with the commercialism, but with the demands that I thought were upon me, but that I was only putting on myself. And as I've gotten older, I'm very present each year to who are the people I want to see this year and spend time with. What food are we going to eat this year? who do I want to share that with? What are the gifts that I do want to exchange? And, a little thought goes into them, but it's not just endless shopping. And I find that my time over the holiday season is much more enjoyable since I've decided what it's going to be about each year. And then I let go of what other expectations there might be upon me and create what I want. And it's not the same every year, not the same people or the same food or the same places, but because life shifts and changes. And, like Danielle said, we've lost people very close to Christmas, and they've been sad and quiet Christmases. And we've had babies born around Christmas, and those have been very joyful occasions. So, it's different every year, but I think the culture that we live in has people feeling under pressure. Whether it's perceived pressure or actual pressure, and it may be a bit of both. There are people that are forced to spend time with their families, and that's great if you get along, but not so great if you don't. But thankfully, I don't experience having to do anything, and I'd be very present to not forcing anybody else to do anything they don't want to do either. I'd be more a case of, this is happening, this is where, this is when, this is what, be there or don't. It's, if you're available, great. If you're interested, great. And if you're not, that's fine. Because I have people very close to me that just like to hide away over Christmas. And that's their time to retreat from the world and reset and re-energize, and that's okay too. And I think the more we give ourselves what we need, the easier it is to allow other people to have whatever they want and need to.
Yeah.
So I was just fascinated listening to you guys talk about all that. Sorry, Bobby.
Oh, no.
Okay, Bobby.
I raised my hand and waited to be called on.
It's your turn now.
Thank you. I love kind of one of the threads that Danielle kind of laid down there of just making the Christmas season an opportunity to really practice mindfulness, to design the Christmas season that you'd like to experience. And, we kind of started off by talking about what triggers people around the holidays. Malcolm pointed out that it's, often people looking back and having things that have gone on. You said the same thing, Miriam. My experience is more having that narrative running in your head, which reminds me of a very short little poem. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. And, coming into the holidays with that is very helpful. And I can remember this time last year, I was about 3 or 4 weeks into a cancer diagnosis, and I was about 3 or 4 weeks away from the surgery that was hopefully going to get it taken care of. And man, I had so much mental static going on. I was time traveling back to, what habits might I have incorporated into my life that could be causing this, and traveling out into the future. What if we didn't catch it early enough this time? And last year, I think I was kind of a mess, just, overwhelmed with mental static. And Christmas and New Year's for me last year, we flew out of here about the 22nd of December, didn't fly back until about January the 2nd or 3rd. And I spent both Christmas and New Year's very non-traditionally in the high Arizona desert, out stalking wildlife and seeing things that I could see out there. So I really love, and we've all kind of said it, but I specifically picked it up from something Danielle said about, mindfully approaching it and just thinking about what do you want this season to be for you this year, and pursuing that. We don't always have the ability to do that because, oftentimes it's a big family tradition that we're going to participate in. But what a beautiful idea of just spending a little bit of time around Thanksgiving thinking about how do I want the rest of the year and the beginning of next to really unfold for me, and then see if we can walk that path.
Yeah, people are good at making New Year's resolutions, right?
Yeah.
But they don't never plan the end of the year, right? Okay, how do I want to end this year, right? They always start off with how I want to begin the year, you know what I'm saying, with all these resolutions or whatever. And then by the mid-year, they're upset with themselves because they didn't do it. But anyway, right? So how do I want this year to end, right? You know what I'm saying? How much, how do I want this year to end, right? And it depends on which calendar you're living off of. But anyway, the regular calendar, 12 months, December is the end of the year. Where do I want to be by that time frame, right? Where do I want to be financially? Where I want to be, and those are things you should think about in October, right? October, November, December is 3 months. That's a season. So, so, what I'm saying? So, and this is one thing that me as a coach, I try to push, right? I try to push that year end, narrative, right? How are we going to end this year, right? Before you start talking to me about next year and, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to climb Mount Everest and I'm going to do all these things, right? How are we going to end this year? Let's end this year off right so that we can do those things. And, Bobby said something about the financial burdens of this season, right? Of this, holidays and all this kind of stuff. And, I think I said this last year on the show that, I remember like it was, December came, Christmas came and all these things. And I think right around March or April, early part of April, I asked my mom for something. She told me she was still paying for Christmas. That right there became a turnoff for me as a young kid, right? Because here it is, 3 months later, 4 months later, my mom is still paying for something, and I don't even know where that thing is at. You know what I'm saying? But she's still paying for it,
Yeah.
right? So you know what I'm saying. So that started a whole process of thinking for me as a kid, right? Which is probably why I don't, what I'm saying. I'm not really, woo, Christmas. I'm not really that guy, right? You know what I'm saying. I understand people celebrate it, and I'll be there for you to help you celebrate it. But I'm not, you know what I'm saying. I'm more so looking at, you know what I'm saying? Okay, how do I want to end this year? How do I, you know what I'm saying? What's the process of, you know what I'm saying? Where am I going? Right? I take this time to reflect. Basically, right? I take this time to reflect. Yes, I got grandkids. I go spend time with the grandkids, but I mostly reflect during this time of the year because I know next year I have plans. I know in the next season I have plans. I have things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I'm saying? So, everything that we've talked about right here, all of us have talked about, is so essential, right? It's so important that people understand these things, right? The negative, the positive, the good, the bad, right? Where the triggers are coming from, right? So understanding where these triggers come from, you can negate some of it, right? Because some people want to have a good Christmas, right? They want to have the joyful Christmas. They want to have what they saw on TV or whatever the case is, but right. They're not prepared to do that, right? They're not prepared to have that, whether it's financial, whether it's spiritual, whether it's a physical thing. Bobby mentioned something about, the mental process, right? The mental process of this, the whole mental process. Well, here's the thing. You can go through the mental processing, but none of it takes effect until you physically go out and do something. Right? You can prepare for it mentally all you want to. I want to prepare. I want this. I want that. I want my Christmas holidays to be like this. But until you start the process of physically doing it, then it's not going to come and it's not going to come into fruition. Then you're going to be upset at yourself. So, so you also got to look at that factor too, right? So if you want that joyous Christmas, you have to prepare that joyous Christmas, no matter what that is, whether it's physical, mental, physical, and spiritual. Right?
Yeah. And on those years where you don't want that joyful Christmas, what a concept to be able to give yourself permission to say, you know what I need right now really more than anything is deep rest, or I need to get away, or I just need an opportunity for peacefulness. I mean, if we're truly present and listening to the wisdom that is guiding us, if we're resistant to Christmas, that can either be a thread to pull on and get a little bit curious and to see if it's something from eons ago that's still sticking with us, or are we living our life versus a narrative of perfection that we happen to have running in our head? Or, can it just be information to say, it's okay, give yourself permission to do it a little bit differently this year and see what happens.
Yeah, I think Christmas is, or Christmas holidays, it's like, what is it for me? And I was listening to you all, and I was thinking about when I was a kid, because I didn't grow up with Christmas. So this whole idea of presents, we didn't have presents, and Christmas cards, because it wasn't Christmas in our house. So I don't have in my time system in my body this idea of like, tree has to go up, and I have to do the turkey, and I have to get the Christmas cards written, and I have to, well, obviously not in that order, and buy presents and all of that. And I decided that Christmas for me, or the holiday season, wasn't about sending Christmas cards to people. And it wasn't about buying presents for people. And people will ask me, what do you want for Christmas? And I have no idea, because I haven't been thinking. I don't have my list, and checking it twice and all of that stuff. I have no idea. I do know that one Christmas I got, I think it was 9 pairs of black socks, and I was in a group of people where one person got skis and another person got like expensive camping gear and whatever. And I got a bunch of black socks. And I remember noticing the difference in the way it was quite demonstrative, the way I was treated compared to the others. And just noticing that and getting curious about what it felt like, and not having to take any signal from the other people's actions. That was a really interesting learning experience. I don't have to take their actions as some sort of cue or information about my self-worth or anything like that. So that was actually a rather interesting, like a good experience as far as being present goes. But I just decided, how do I want to feel during this time of the year? Generally speaking, how do I want to feel, and what do I want things to look like? And do I want a really super busy schedule? I mean, I like being busy, but I don't always like being busy. Do I want to be around a lot of people, or don't I? And that can, as Jan says, that can change from year to year. It depends who I am right in this moment, how I am right in this moment. But I just decided that the whole sort of Christmas card thing or whatever, it was kind of like, well, you know what? You know who I am. You know what my cultural background is. If you choose to take offense because I don't send you a Christmas card when you choose to send me a Christmas card, that is your choice. It is not a statement about you when I don't send Christmas cards. It is just a matter of, I never think about Christmas cards. And I just decided that instead of trying to push myself into some time frame, I would just continue being like that, and trust that, I'm in contact with the people I want to be in contact with, et cetera, et cetera. So it is that being present to, I like to describe it as who I am in the moment, because I am whatever. But this Christmas or this holiday season doesn't have to resemble last year's holiday season or next year's holiday season. And I love that I just can have that sort of feeling of peace. And I mean, we talk about Christmas peace, and for me, it's just not having to be anybody other than I am in any given moment, as far as I can be present. So that's my gift to myself. If there's going to be gifts at all, I start with myself. I see you going like this, Malcolm, and I get real curious about what's that dance about.
I was just but yeah. I mean, Christmas. I mean, you got to realize, man, that whatever you're going through, whatever you're feeling, right? That's a choice you're making, right? You're the boss of that, right? You're the boss of that. Yes, everybody else has expectations of you and what they expect you to do and give and all of that. But at the end of the day, you're the boss of that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know another way to put it, right? If you don't want to be bothered, you don't have to be bothered, right? I understand traditionally, this is what's happening. But if the tradition irritates you, then why force yourself to be there? Right? If the tradition is okay with you, right, then why not be there, right? So what I'm saying, it's your choice, and a lot of people go through things that trigger them later on, right after Christmas. Now you're going through the depressive state of Christmas, right? Because what I'm saying, you try to fake the funk throughout Christmas,
Yeah.
with everybody there, and then once it's over with, you go home, you're like, yeah, right, and you start a whole different mental processes, right? Or vice versa, right? It could go either way, but you have to be aware of what you're going through and what you're looking for out of that season. What are you looking for, right? Are you looking for gifts? Okay, well, there might not be gifts for you underneath the tree, but it will be gifts underneath the tree if you go buy your own gifts and put them under there, right? You know what I'm saying? It depends on how you want to play the game, right? But you can't give into what other people's expectations are of that holiday, right? You can't, right? If that's not who you are, then don't be that, right? If you're not the person to do gifts and all that kind of stuff, don't raise your kids up on giving gifts. Don't do it to them because you hurt them later on, right? So, what I'm saying, just be mindful, be cautious, be present in what you're thinking and how you're feeling. I saw
Danielle?
Danielle right there. Yeah.
I've got to jump. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Danielle. Merry Christmas, everybody. I love all of you guys.
Merry
Thank you
Christmas,
for tuning
Bobby.
in.
Bobby.
And
Merry Christmas.
we'll see you next time.
Love
Have a
you.
ball.
Love you
Enjoy,
guys.
Bobby.
Hey, go over. Oh, he left.
Oh, he's gone.
I was going to tell him go up to North Pole to Santa's house.
Danielle?
I just raised my hand because, like, I represent that remark of buying the things that I want and putting them under the tree, not being disappointed that I don't get what I want because I put it there, so I know it's there.
That's actually an interesting point about getting disappointed. And then I was thinking about the after Christmas sales, and the after Christmas, you have to go and exchange the gifts for those who get gifts they don't really want or whatever. And some people get this, there's this re-gifting thing. Like you got something from somebody who didn't really want it, so you give it to somebody else. And I remember when I was younger and I could feel like this for me, birthdays or whatever, if I'm have received a gift and feeling disappointed because I was regifted or I got something that I really didn't want, I wasn't interested in it or whatever. And perhaps having the opportunity to exchange it or being told that, no, it was a gift, you have to keep it. And then it ended up gathering dust. And being younger, I didn't really see the value in somebody actually thought of you enough for a moment to make sure that you got a gift. And the rest of it is whatever it is, but somebody in a moment thought of you and got you something. And that's beautiful, I think.
Gift giving, pretty chill.
That's our illustrious Fred, Dr. Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah. We definitely kept it chill. Well, it's winter, so I imagine it was pretty chill. Ha ha ha.
Especially when you live in the northern climes, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a saying here that it's the thought that counts. I don't know. Do you guys say that?
Yeah, the thought that counts.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
The fact that the fact that you thought about me is a good thing. Your present identifying how you thought of me might not be a good thing.
Yeah.
Mixed bag.
When I was a kid, I worked in my dad's store. My father was a jeweler and a watchmaker, and something else I can't think of at the moment. And people would come in at Christmas Eve just before the store closed, grabbed whatever was on the sales table. Like I remember this guy coming in, he was so drunk. And I think I might have told this story before. He was so drunk, but he knew he had to get something for his wife. And I mean, right there, I'm like, okay, there's a thought there. He hasn't completely forgotten her, but he's not really present, to put it that way. he was really drunk. So he just kind of looked at the table with all this 50% stuff on and just grabbed a thing and bought it. And I remember feeling badly for his wife because I didn't see the value in the situation where he comes home and he presents the gift, and perhaps she feels sad, not noticed, not appreciated, whatever. And what a gift that is as well. It's like not necessarily, well, there's one thing, he did actually think of her and buy the gift, whatever it was. But there's valuable information in also the thought process, the heart, whatever you want to call it, the presence that went into buying whatever, and her noticing that he wasn't really thinking of me more than just the responsibility of buying me something.
Present.
Right. And then using that to, do I want to keep having this happen to me and during the holiday? Is this the kind of life I want for myself? So even in the, like we've been talking a little bit about triggers, even in the moments where the holidays aren't quite what you want. And for people, especially people who are in active situations, as they're sometimes called, which means that you're living in a home with an abuser still, right? It can be very valuable to notice, how do you feel right now? And if some people have no choice, if they're younger, for example, it's very difficult to get away. Even so, there's a value in knowing that this is not for me. I don't want this. This is not the life I see for myself. And knowing that there are possibilities out there for doing something else. So holiday cheer, to call it that, is possible for me. Perhaps not in the form I would like it right now. But that doesn't mean that this now has to be all nows. So there's even opportunity in getting the gifts and exchanging and not feeling appreciated or seen or met or whatever. That can contribute to a much better experience of holiday. Does that make any sense to you guys?
Yes. Everything the Creator created, He created in duality. There's a duality to everything in life. And it's what you focus on at the end of the day. It's what you focus on. And no matter, you can get as dark as you want to get, or you can get as bubbly and light as you want to get, right? It all depends on what you focus on. Yes, the dark is going to be there. It's going to always be there. And, and sometimes it's stronger than what you think the light is, right? But if you focus on the light, stay focused on the light, right? But anyway, so you focus on the light, focus on the happiness, focus on something positive, then you eventually, somebody, like, those are decisions you have to make, right? You have to look at those things and you have to make a decision. If you decide to stay in those situations, you decide to stay in the dark, then, that's a decision you're making, right? Fear or whatever, you got to make a decision. And, we can, like I said, everything has a duality, and it's what you focus on. It's all about what you focus on, right? And, if you got to get away, you got to get away. If you don't, then don't. But stay focused on what you want and what you desire, and you'll get there eventually. Because you got to go through things, man, mentally, physically, spiritually. You got to go through things financially. You got to go through some things. And you may have to go through a lot to get to where you want to be. But don't give up, right? Keep fighting for what you want. Keep fighting to get there. Whatever you think the light is, keep doing what you got to do to get to the light.
Actually, thank you, Malcolm. Actually, as we start to round off, I'm thinking that there's this thing, as you were talking about, like fighting for the light and choosing to think about the light and moving towards the light, like going for what you want. I was starting to think about this sort of idea of deserving it, right? People who sometimes don't move towards what they want is because they had an underlying feeling of less than worth, right? They don't feel like they deserve it, or they don't feel they're worth it. And with regard to Christmas, I didn't grow up with Christmas, but I've seen a lot of Christmas movies and I've heard a lot about Christmas, and people talk about if you're not good throughout the year, Santa won't give you a present. So, and there's this sort of it's kind of baked into the idea of Christmas in a lot of people's experience of Christmas. Anyway, this idea of I was good, I'm a good person, so I get a present, which basically means if I'm bad, I don't.
Mhm.
So the idea of
And
I
number
can
12.
surmount all of that, and I can change my culture, and I can work towards good things, and I can create a life that's good. Not if I think I was bad and don't deserve it. That can be actually a real challenge for a lot of people. That can sit really ingrained in their system,
Mm.
right? I notice you're nodding, Dan.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, very ingrained.
If I think I'm being bad, if I think I deserve it, if I thinking I don't deserve it, then I don't go for it. If I get to a point that I believe I deserve a better day, a happy Christmas, or whatever the case is, then I will achieve it. As long as that person is thinking I don't deserve, then they won't get, because you're not gonna put the energy into getting it. You're not gonna put the mental, physical, or spiritual energy to get it because you feel like you don't deserve it. Change your mindset, right? I don't care what it is. If you feel like you deserve something, right, then go for it. If you feel like you don't deserve something, then ask yourself why. Why do I feel like I don't deserve? Oh, because this person told me, because of this, because of what I went through in my childhood. Okay, stop. Put the brakes on, right? All of that happened then. Let's talk about now, right? Let's talk about what's going on right now. Do you as a person right now deserve it, right? It don't matter what you did in the past. The past is the past, right? You learn from the past. You don't dwell in it. When you dwell in your past, you're going to be stuck in the past. No matter what Christmas it is, what holiday it is, what birthday it is, what year it is. If you're focused on the past, you're going to be stuck in the past. So you have to create your own future. Nobody's going to create. If you don't create your own future, then you're living in everybody else's expectation of you and what you should be and what you should be and where you should go and what you should do and how you should look. All that. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing with anything else, right? You have to generate.
It's Fred.
Shut up. Yeah. So anyway, you know what I'm saying? So you have to generate. So you have to create these things, man. You can't hold on to the past, think you finna have any kind of a future. You can't, right? You can't hold on to the past thinking you finna have a good present moment in time, right? So you have to let that go. You have to learn from it and move forward with that, right? If you want to have a good Christmas, have one. Make a list of 5 things that need to happen for you to have a good Christmas, and make those 5 things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
I think that for people who don't feel like they deserve or don't feel like they are worth, that can feel like present. That can feel like truth. It's an identity. It's them in the world, and they may not know that it's actually a learned way of thinking.
Mm.
So since we're bringing this up, and since at least I've seen this very often at Christmas, it's like you have to deserve your presents. You have to have been a good person in order to get your presents. If you feel like that, if you feel like you're not worthwhile or you don't deserve, this is an opportunity to actually consider that that's just a habitual way of thinking because you've been told that for a long time. And a habitual way of thinking may seem completely true. If you've been told you're not worth anything when you do bad things, everybody does bad things. That means none of us are worth anything. So how come some people succeed and some people don't? So you can perhaps take the opportunity now during the holiday season to begin to question all of those things that you may have been told about yourself or you may believe to be true about yourself, and give yourself the present of presence and noticing that there is something else that may be true for you, and that is not it.
And get you a coach.
Yeah. And you might need some help with that. And of course, there are many people out there who can help you. And we are, of course, willing to do that. Or you're welcome to talk to us. We are at the end of our hour. Anybody who would like to say anything in closing?
I love that, Miriam, that you said give yourself the present of presence. I think that's a beautiful closing for us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We will
Happy
do that. I thought
holidays,
we were
everybody.
around. Does anybody else want to say something?
Be present. Stay present.
It has been wonderful to be with all of you, and for all of you who have been watching and commenting, and that includes you, Fred. We wish you all a happy holiday season. Thank you for being with us. And the Presents Posse is back next week, same time, same place, except not quite same place. We're going to be on Zoom because it is the last Monday of the month, and that is our live and interactive Zoom call. And I don't know how many of us are going to be on because it's Christmas. So we'll see what happens. And we've got Fred sending us some love, and that is very nice. We love you too, Fred. And we need to get your tech fixed so that we can be with you and you can be with us. So have a Merry Christmas or whatever holiday you're celebrating or not celebrating. We hope you enjoy the season and experience some form of cheer, and we will, in some form or other, see you again next week. Take care, everybody.